Welcome back, friends. Okay, so last we left off, if I remember correctly, Karl Franz and the White Wizard of some crazy statistical power was rolling over these undead stacks here, right? Yeah. So, I was thinking about this actually during our downtime. I was thinking about this, and I think that light net, is a ridiculously powerful ability. For 10 seconds, this is a level 1 by the way, for 10 seconds, a unit and those within 30 meters of them cannot move, right? They cannot take a step forward. I was considering looking over the rest of these abilities to see if there was anything else as ridiculously powerful as this net of Amontok. Maybe I'm not yet decided to see if we will or not. I think we might do, but just not just yet, right? Not just yet, because I want to play the game more to see if there's any hard counters to this action. Now, right? So I have a problem with the way this is implemented, right? Because this implementation of this spell is so binary that the unit is either moving or not, right? Like, dwarves have a magic resistance. Some units have a magical resistance. Some units have a very high speed. Why would you implement such a binary mechanic, which is impossible to balance, right? Because the only way you can balance then this function is, well, you obviously must balance it through either effect range, the targeting distance, the duration, or the mana cost and the cooldown, right? Why, instead of designing this ability like this, designing this spell like this, why could the developers simply not have said that, hey, this is going to be a percentage reduction to a unit's movement speed, right? So we'll have it. Or we will multiply it, their movement speed will be 10% of what it is normally, right? But if the unit has magical resistances or is somehow exempt from being affected by magic, then those things would counteract each other. Because they've chosen to implement it like this, and like so, obviously I don't know the whole game yet, right? There might be other spells here that remove magical effects. There might be items that remove magical effects from your own units, right? But why would you even implement such an extreme, because this is an extreme ability. An ability that prevents multiple units from moving within 200 meters in a 30-meter radius. You guys saw what we did to those two units of Grey Guard. Now, let's imagine for a second that I'll have 2 of these light wizards, or maybe even 3, right? I have a funny suspicion that this is going to get nerfed, and that they're going to revisit the implementation of this effect. / rant. Okay. I really want to look at the other spells, but I wonder if we should... No, we'll do this. No. We're not stepping back from this problem. We will embrace it fully. We will embrace this. So, we're going to try and summarize these schools of magic as best as we can. Let us look at the one that we have so far had access to. The Lorelei. The Law of Light has a melee speed and attack buff. A defensive version of that. So this gives melee attack and percentage speed. Flat melee attack bonus is actually really powerful. Flat melee attack bonus for instance, unskilled units is really powerful. Percentage speed bonus is interesting. I think I am surprised they chose to implement this melee attack bonus as a straight value rather than a percentage, right? So we've spoken about percentages and straight values beforehand. So this surprises me a little bit. this also surprises me a little bit, right? Because this spell is basically better used on junk units than high-end units. Right? But also, now that I think about it, maybe it is good that they have implemented some things as flat values and other things as percentages. But on the same hand, right? Because let's think about this for a second. If you have a spell that adds a flat value of 20, right? We have a flat value of 20 melee attack damage, right? Then 20 melee attack, sorry, not damage, just 20 melee attack is really good for a cheap low-cost unit, because it means we'll be able to hit more often. Like, its cost effectiveness goes drastically through the roof. While a unit that already has high levels of melee attack doesn't really gain as much combat potential as a junk unit does, right? Now, so those are the benefits. Those are the two, not benefits, what's the word here? Those are the two different sides of the how do I buff coin. How do I make this unit stronger coin? Now, what they really could have done is said that if the gain, for instance, let's imagine that we were going to buff a unit's melee attack by 25%, right? So let's imagine we have that. Then this spell also has some extra logic in it that says that, hey, if the benefit gained from this spell is too low, then add a straight value, then just simply set it to be plus 10, right? So it's a range of, and if the value is too high, then simply set it to be 40, right? So on the most extreme of cases, it does not completely break the combat system. So then, what you end up with is a designed and control range of power spectrum, which starts at 10 and progresses to 40, and it uses a multiplier in the middle based on the unit's own statistic. That way you have a control dial at the front of the spell, at the back of the spell, and in the middle you deal with everything else on a percentage value. So that's the logic of spells and things, right? That's my thoughts on this. But let's get back to the schools of magic. I don't want to so much focus on the upgraded version because this might complicate things a little bit outside of the scope and force this video to be quite long. But I want to do just a quick jump in, look at these spells, look at their functionality, look at what they do, and get a feel and like an overarching feel for the different schools of magic here, friends. Okay, so let's check this out. So we have a melee attack speed buff. We have a melee defense armor buff. So, okay, offensive buff, defensive buff. What do you do? We have a projectile. I wonder if they're like, I've seen a couple of other projectiles here, right? I wonder if there are projectiles that are drastically different from each other. So, melee buff, defensive, melee offensive, melee defensive buff, projectile, banishment. What does banishment do? It's a vortex. So this is a vortex. This is like a moving spiral of suction. Okay, I don't want to get too stuck on the details, right? Then we have the net. The net of all, to end all other nets. Why are these colors different also? Then we have the light of battle, which makes the unit unbreakable. Again, this is extremes. Extremes are never good because you can't balance an extreme because this is binary, so you have to balance this based on these things here or these things here. Right, but that's the Laura Light. Now, let's check out the Laura Heavens, which is the other type of wizard that Empire have access to. I think Empire have access to 4 types of wizards, which are the Law of Light, the Laura Heavens, the Laura Fire, and the Laura Metal. The Laura Metal because remember the what's his name, the unique general can have the Law of Metal. But let's go through this now. So we've gone through the Law of Light. Let's do the Law of Heavens. So Heavens. This is a bombardment. I've actually not used a bombardment spell yet, but judging by this video, you select it says you select the ground position, right? And then stuff falls from the sky for, I guess this is not for 7 seconds, like in 7 seconds, or how would that work? Right, how would this actually work? I guess the impact point Yeah, I know. This is what they must means that the projectile impact happens in 7 seconds from casting. Otherwise, we just have to experience it in the game. So, okay, bombardment, wind blast. We've not yet seen a breath style attack. Right, this is a long cooldown as well. So this is the first breath type attack. Duration 6 seconds. You target ground, and you have a cone at 80 like you see over here is going on, right? This knocks people over, right? Winds battlefield, directing them against the foe. Okay. Gale. Causes magical damage. Expands in a tear-shaped attack. Strong versus multiple. Disrupts formation. So yeah, okay, so it knocks people down. Does this disrupt formation? No, this does. This just does damage. Harmonic convergence. This is... if we could look at Law of Light, this is a very offensive orientated spell, because this is pure offense, right? This is your 24% bonus. It can be used in other ways, but really how they expect you to use it is to get the charge advantage, right? To rapidly close ground, get the charge bonus, and get a melee attack bonus on top of that. This one is a pure defensive buff. Now, if we go back to the Laura Heavens, the harmonic convergence selects a single unit. There's no AoE to it. Right? We'll disregard what I just did because I don't want to look at the bonuses. We select a single unit and make them very offense. We give them offense focus and defense focus at the same time. It's hard to say how effective it is versus armor. It's hard to say how effective melee attack and melee defense is when compared to melee defense and armor, right? This is a Excel problem that you would simply Excel out over damage and time to kill. We're not going to do that because I just don't feel like working while we're having fun. Hey. So, Ranan's Thunderbolt. It's another bombardment spell that, yeah, okay, so 4 seconds it impacts, right? How are these different? How is this one different to that one? Small strike area, strong versus multiple combatants. Large strike area. This tooltip could be so much better. Really. Like, I want to know the numbers here, yo. I actually want to know the numbers. But I guess they're the same, but this is 10-16. This is 12-21, so you can cast this one more often. What's the power of this? Increases armor piercing damage. What's the power up of this? They're the same thing. One is cheaper than the other, I guess. I guess this Thunderbolt is the one that is your basic offensive wizard ability as Laura Heavens that you get to spam. Or is it? Actually, it might be. Or it might also be breath. I don't know. I don't really know. We'll get those wizards, we'll test it. So you have bombardment, knockdown. This probably does light damage, but this is primarily a displacement ability. You have a attack melee buff. Chain lightning. What is chain lightning? Is a vortex ability. Okay, but again, like there is another vortex ability in Lore of Light. How is this one different to that one? Let's have a look, shall we? 1524. So this one is cheaper. "21 seconds to go. Got 21 seconds to go. Oh no, will you please cast a chain lightning?" Yo. Right, so strong versus multiple, large moving area effect, causes magical damage, weak against single combatants. And this one can disrupt unit formations is the big difference, I guess. The other one is a purely damage orientated one. But you know, for a game that I thought does tooltips well, I'm a little bit disappointed in these tooltips. A little bit disappointed in these. Chain lightning, fine. This is a damage focused vortex ability, as far as I can tell. Midnight Wind Curse. Hex. So, right, okay, so we can buff melee attack, and actually no, this is different. Oh yeah, this is different. This is that. Ground target 30 meters. Extended effect. This is a straight reduction. Okay. The other thing is that the interaction between these numbers very much depends on the combat system calculations, right? So like if one unit has 25 points of melee attack and another unit has 25 points of melee defense, does that mean that the attacker has a 50% chance to hit the defender? Okay, if that's true or not, then fine. Then on the flip side of that is, if the defender has 25 more points percentage-wise, than the attacker has 25 more percentage points than the defender, does that mean that they have a 25% greater chance to hit? Or is it a different style of curve, like whether it's a diminishing curve or an exponential curve? It's very hard to say without actually knowing the mathematical formulas. So it's hard to judge the value of these numbers in context to units that have a high number and you knock them down, or to units that have a low number and you push them to 0 or below 0, if that's even possible. But so essentially, Laura Heavens is focused on bombardment abilities and some CC. Well, they have this one CC spell and the rest of it is they have 2 buffs, 2 bombardments, and a vortex. Is that right? 2 buffs, 2 bombardments, vortex, and knockdown. Right, so let's look at Laura Fire, right? So, like you noticed, they don't have any binary style of mechanics here. Unless you can really consider, like, the statistical benefits. But I can see an argument for it, but I also don't consider it on the same scale a binary binary system such as Net. Okay, so let's look at Laura Fire. And actually, I think... No, we will look through all of these. Okay? Right, let's do this. So, Law of Fire, the Sword of Ruin. Whichever way you would like to pronounce this, R-H-U or in Ruin or Ruhin. Anything, whatevers. Percentage damage, right? So here, they choose to use percentage damage. Now, what this means is that this spell is amazing on units that already have very high damage numbers, and garbage on units that have low numbers. So this is far more effective on high price units than low price units. Right? So we can consider it this way, where if we consider this a buff, a combat stat buff, right? So bright wizards are better because of this, inexpensive armies, than wizards of heavens, right? Because this is far better, this is far better, or actually really for that matter Law of Light, this is far better on cheap units that would gain significantly more by having these numbers. Going from 20 to like 50 plus is far better than going from, well actually, okay, that's, I don't know, it depends on the mathematical formula, right? But you guys can see what I mean here. It depends very much on the mathematical formula. So here is another one. This is another percentage armor piercing buff, and then a flat melee defense increase. Right? Surrounds, paraments, and is it acts on only targets within a duration 15. Allies. So this is a 30-meter range, right? It's a 30-meter range. He chooses a unit, and everyone within, I guess, the allies' range gets this. So again, percentages are good on things that already have high numbers, and very bad on things that have low numbers. Fireball, right? This is another projectile ability. So let's look at these numbers and let's remember them, right? Just for mental comparison's sake, if anything. We're not going to do the upgraded version, even though it's just increased fire damage. So 330, right? 330. Laura Light is 250, 250. And also, actually, I should really stay on the spell that I selected if I come back to a school that I was on beforehand, right? Like, if we flick here, it should remember that I was looking at Shem's Burning Gaze. This is not very hard to do, by the way. So, right, powerful explosion, effective range. Does this mean it has an AoE on impact? Yeah, it looks like it does have an AoE on impact. Explosion, Effective at long range, damage, fire and magic, strong versus multiple. Poor angle, yeah, because straight lines, yo. Explosion, long range, magic and fire, multiple. What does that mean? Good from high angle. Like, what is this? What does this mean? Good from high angle. By the way, they could have also recorded more videos of good use from high angle and bad use from low angle, yeah? This could have been more examples. They could have had like buttons over here that is spell use example 1, example 2, example 3, example 4. Hey, this is what the spell does. So I don't understand what good from high angle means, but this causes damage, effective at close range. Right? But how? But how is it effective at close range? What does that mean? Like, yeah, it's great. I want to know exactly what this means. Right? And this says it's effective at long range. Does that mean that its damage value scales based on the longer the missile is flying? Or does that mean something completely different? So yeah, these tooltips are very... These tooltips can be better. Really, considering the company that makes this game, they should have been better. So then we have Flamestorm, which is a what? It's a vortex. It's a very long vortex actually, out of vortexes that we've seen beforehand. Does this vortex move? This vortex also seems to move. Great. It's like any other vortex we've seen before. I failed to see the difference of this vortex, other than this number, and probably these numbers, to this vortex. Right? Well, this causes disruptions. This is light, by the looks of it, light is very CC orientated, like net, disruption, projectile with, I don't know what these things really do. Burning head. This is a bit more interesting. So fire has two types of vortexes. Looks like a classic vortex and a quite different vortex. Range numbers are the same, durations are slightly off. This is fire and magic, this is fire and magic, yeah. Large moving area effect. Does this one move? I guess this one also moves. Yeah, it looks like the skull is moving. Constant effect, burn, -8 leadership. Now, does that mean there is a... see, this is another thing. Does that mean that this skull fire, every 5 seconds, will affect everyone near it by -8 leadership? Or does that mean that anyone affected by the skull fire has a debuff for 5 seconds that reduces their leadership by 8? What does the upgrade do, just for the sake of looking at it? Duration. To what? 40 seconds? How do you control this for 40 seconds? Where is this going? It's going to the fucking mountains. It's going to the mountains for 40 seconds. Bombardment 9 seconds, 200, okay. Fire magic, large, multiple, okay. So right, because this takes 9 seconds to hit, I guess this one does more damage than the other ones, and this is also multiple small projectiles. So I would really like to know what the difference is between this, really, and, where is it? And this, other than doing fire. Right? Let's have a look at Laura Metal. And again, notice, right, that again in fire, you don't have the extreme of binary mechanics, like stop moving or you're unbreakable. Huh? Let's have a look at, yeah, okay, so we've seen fire. Fire, by the looks of it, is percentage strength, but the fire buffs are, generally speaking, percentage multipliers. Like so, like this one, not this one, generally speaking, which is why we said it. And this is just another vortex ability. And this is a different type of vortex ability. This is a anti-leadership vortex, right? Which is cool, which is a cool concept. But this can be explained more. All of these can be explained more. Laura Metal, right? The only guy so far that we've seen, well, because we can't buy wizards of Laura Metal, or we can only get Balthazar Gelt, that's a Laura Metal wizard. So let's check this boy out. Yeah. Let's check this boy out. So he has a direct damage area ability that instantly affects targets in the area. Duration 9 seconds. What does that mean? Does it take 9 seconds to cast? Or does it last for 9 seconds? Looks like this... I think this lasts for 9 seconds. So really, this is not a direct damage ability, by the way, friends. If you make tooltips, this is... No, I guess the reason direct spells are deadly attacks. Yes, okay, great. This is a thematic explanation, but what this really is a dot. Yeah, it's a damage over time spell, right? And they could have chosen language, not direct damage, but something else to signify that if they wanted to. So this is a dot. Vortex, Burn, Golden Hound. So this is another spell that's a vortex that I actually do not see any difference from this to that, other than like 27 and the casting numbers, right? What is the difference here? There isn't, as far as the end user is concerned, there isn't any, because you don't tell me there is. So I have to use them to find them out, which is obfuscating the mechanics for no better reason than to make me try out a mechanic. This is, so he has a percentage debuff. This is interesting. This debuff is percentage based. It's a group as well. This debuff is both percentage based and flat. And the power up is... Oh wow. That's this is significant. 58 is a big number. Then we have a... who do you cast this on? On an ally, I assume. For 24 seconds they get this. And then the upgraded version, on the upgraded version we can cast on the ground and it gives everyone this. Okay. What is this? A bombardment. Okay, so how is this bombardment different to all of the other bombardments? This looks like exactly like the firestorm. What is the difference here? 9 200 10 19 9 200 10 19 9 200 5. See, so if the costing of this is so much cheaper, does this mean this ability does no damage, right? Now they could have said that instead of us have to deduce that from these numbers. Because not everyone will be able to figure that out. They'll be like, hey, why is this spell... This is like that other spell, but it does next to nothing. This is terrible. And this is negative armor. What is the other buff that he had? Debuff he had, sorry. Yeah, this is offense debuff. This is armor debuff. Greater effect on armor 30. Okay. I guess they're like percentages here, but not here, and not here. Right. They could have really thematically grouped these a little bit better. So the summary is that... Actually, how do you even summarize this, right? Because this is a vortex that we don't know how it's different. This is a... Well, really, the other ones didn't really have a direct target dot, right? This is the only spell... Final Transmutation is the only spell out of all of the Empire Schools of Magic that is a damage over time target spell, right? Everything else is projectiles and things and vortexes. This is a vortex. We have seen many like it. This one is his. Whoop-de-doo. Move on. This is interesting. This is a debuff with percentages. This is not so interesting, right? Yeah, this is useful, but interesting? No, not really. Not bombardment. Blah. Okay. Great. I see what you did there. I'm not particularly impressed, right? So, let's look then, now, let's try to summarize these guys. So, Wizard Lore of Light, in my opinion, is very CC focused. Because that's over the net, it's very hard to say, right? But they all of the schools of magic seem to have a projectile, couple of buffs, a vortex, and then some other stuff, right? Where well, this one has a CC, 2 bombardments, vortex, and a debuff. We have yeah. Well, this has 2 buffs. This one has 1 buff, 2 buff, no debuff. Metal has debuff, buff, debuff. I don't know if these spells are taken straight out of Warhammer. I sort of expect that they are. I would have to look into it to really be sure. Now let's check out the other schools of magic, right? Let's look at, what is this? What is this? Vampires. Okay, so this is for the Von Carsteins. Oh, this is for vampire counts. Von Carstein is a house of them. What is this? Nehek. This regenerates. This is the thing that they always cast on their units that regenerates dead combatants and restores HP. So this is my healing spell. Great. I'm a vampire. Of course I can heal stuff. This is a melee buff, similar to the one in Laurelite, if I remember correctly. Right. 24-34. 24-34. 16-6-9. The time warp is much longer. Ground 30, 45-50. Yes, this is a single target spell. 619. No, excuse me, 6919. Laurelite, I assume is more. Yes, Laurelite is bigger but more expensive. The other one is more spammy. Projectile. How is this different to any of the other projectiles we've seen so far? Right? This is interesting because this is a... See? This is not a hard CC. This is a percentage speed reduction, right? This is not a hard cock block. This is just a percentage reduction. And still, I would implement this a little bit differently though, for the mathematics, right? This is interesting. Plus 15 recharge. This means that they increase, I guess, is that when they cast this, this increases the cooldown of all of the spells on the unit or whatever abilities it has. So this is different to everything else that we've seen. This is also very different to everything else that we've seen. This spawns a unit of zombies. What does level upgrade do? Spawns a unit of skeletons. Okay, this is good to know. Is this another generic vortex? Come on. Do something different. This one is very fast moving though. That one was very fast moving for a duration of 8 seconds. Who gets like would vampires? Maybe vampires also get Laura Death. Okay, so here we have a flat leadership reduction. Okay, then this makes it AoE. I assume because it's 29 seconds, it reduces your current leadership value by 16 and at the same time reduces your maximum potential leadership value by 16. Right, so your current and your maximum goes down by this amount. And then we have percentage based. This I can see being quite useful because this ability will be very effective on high-end combat units, especially when we have high-end combat unit against another high-end combat unit, and you do this on them, right? This is a significant number. This I don't know why they added this leadership and armor reduction. Right. This spell doesn't know what it wants to be. It wants to be a damage reduction. So this basically means that the target unit does less damage. This means that the target unit takes more damage, and this means that the target unit has more chance to run away. This makes this spell schizophrenic in its role functionality. Right? Because if I want leadership, I would cast this. Yeah? Because this is a bigger number than that. Right? 9-15, 10-16. Okay, maybe some edge cases when you want to throw both at. You throw both at for a bigger numbers reduction. This is plus leadership and causes terror. We need to see how terror works exactly, because I'm a little bit Yeah, it's hard to say. I need to know exactly how useful Terra is. Vortex. Disrupts formations. There are many like this Vortex, but this one is his. Is this another... Yeah, this is another dot. So this ought to be similar to the one the Metal Wizard has. This is 710 13 100. Yeah, the Wizard's transmutation, his is far more powerful, but it is also on a longer cooldown, so I guess this hits like a truck compared to Spirit Leech. I then wonder if Spirit Leech is the spammy ability that is of the Lore of Death. Fate of Bajuna. Okay, Bajuna. Is this a dot also? 13, 22, 20. 13, 22, 20. 13, 22, 20. 13, 22, 20. So we have two dots. A spammy dot and a, I assume, a not so spammy dot. What are these colors then? I've just realized that this is a tooltip. Ah, I see. Okay. So yes, they like to use these numbers to say what is useful. Grey is disposable casting. Purple is expensive and long-lasting effects, high cost and high recharge. Is it purple or light blue? This is blue. Green is balanced. It's generally useful. By the way, this color scheme is this color coding is the color coding of MMO items, right? So this is common, uncommon, and rare. They do this also on items that I've been noticing. I want to quickly jump back to where's my Light Wizard of OP in this. This net is broken as fuck. Okay, and let's look at the Orcs magic. Let's look at first Goblins. Gork will fix it. This is cool. This is a drastically different style of spell, right? This is percentage reduction. 24 speed, 18% charge bonus. So, when two units charge each other, both of the units get their charge bonus, right? Let's think about what this actually means for a second. So, but actually this number is also really, really good. The casting range, if the casting range was 250, because remember, projectile range is, crossbow range is 135, right? But if casting range was 250, then this I think would be more powerful in conjunction with this. And this is classified as a uncommon. Okay, it's quite cheap also. The spammy version, this grey is spammy. Projectile. Effective at close range. How? How is it effective at close range? Right? Good from high angle. How? What does that mean? And you guys are probably wondering, asking yourself, like, Ty, why do you care so much when you can just use it in game, right? But no. We play these games to understand what the people were thinking when they made these spells. Why they chose to say, we don't need more information than this, and this, and this, or this, right? We need to know, we need to understand. Curse of the Bad Moon. This looks different. This is a vortex with a debuff component. That also actually looks fucking hella cool, by the way, if you're not looking at the screen. This is a vortex with a debuff component that reduces flat reduction, attack, armor, and speed. This is pretty interesting. I'm also assuming that friendly spell, like unfriendly spells can also hit friendly units, so you really should not cast this on top of your own men. But otherwise, yeah, okay, it's great. Hello, this is something also that is interesting, right? This is interesting because it's different to everyone else. Yeah, mushrooms in the air, yeah. Yeah, so this is enemy, ground enemy affected in range, 30 meters, great. 50 meters. 50 meters is around 3 regiments, maybe 4 regiments if they're really tight together. And they drop this on top of archers, so that the archers cannot shoot them. Which is interesting, right? So, see, this spell has a very defined role. I put this AoE on top of the enemy archer units. What is this? Instantly target area, flat melee attack, and percentage bonus damage. Armor piercing percentage bonus damage, right? So, this is even, I assume, this is not useful at all on units that do not have armor piercing damage on them naturally. And this is a cool buff also. Percentage weapons damage. This is quite powerful. .34 weapon damage. Who else had this style of debuff? I cannot remember. I would have to excel this problem. And I don't want to do that. That is more work than I'm willing to put into this. So finally, let's have a look at Orcs magics. This doesn't actually have a power up button, for whatever reason. Okay, for the Gork. An explosion. This, have we seen other explosion type abilities? I can't remember. I actually don't think so. Okay. This is interesting, because I don't think I've seen anything else like this. Here we go. Right. See, this spell knows what it is. Right? It's a buff, it's a group AoE buff for melee attack. One of the techniques used in balancing, well, generally in cost calculators and in balance calculators, is that if you have a range of, for instance, let's take this range. Our range is from 0 to 60, because I just say it is for now, right? If you have a spell that you cost from 0 to 60, and then at 58 points, it needs to have these values and these numbers to make it, in your cost calculator, valuable for this position of this character, right? That means that, generally speaking, that if we had 2 numbers that were 30, right, these numbers could then be higher. Because, just because the way calculations work, well, no, not really. It's because generally if you have an overly specialized ability, then you want to cost it more than a less specialized ability. And by less specialized, I mean the schizophrenic nonsense going on, where is it? Going on over here, right? So, these numbers are quite fucking small. And because they're quite small, and to different things, they don't really matter. However, this super specialized ability, and of course, obviously that can be argued against its, and obviously what I said can be argued against its casting cost and cooldown, right? But generally speaking, if you have a generalistic spell, then you wanted to make those numbers a little bit higher than average, while in a specialized spell, because it's so heavily specialized, you want to make it more expensive than average for the costing and for the casting parameters. We might actually end up doing a video about this at some other point, right? But this is far better explained when I have Excel in front of me and I have a working spell calculator for you guys to look at, right? But maybe we'll do that at some point in the future. The Fist of Gork. Yeah, this is a melee buff. Well, actually, it's not. It is a melee buff. But this one is a little bit, this is less focused than that, right? This is melee buff, make my guys hit you very hard, give them higher chance to hit. And this one is let them do more damage and be a little bit more defensive. This green, here we go. Brainbuster, large explosion. I guess are orcs the only school of magic that have explosion type spells. This is a nuke, right? This you call direct damage. This is direct damage. This is a dot. This is a sustained damage spell. Hint hint. It's in the name. Breath they have, so this is the other breath in the game. This transformation, what is this? Gaze and Mork, Magic Missile 250. Okay. That was a very fast travel time actually. Let's watch this video again. That seemed very fast. Let's have a look at the fireball. Right. Oh, it's hard to say from this camera angle and everything else. It's quite hard to say. But that also traveled fast. Maybe these. Disappointed I am. So, I still think, in fact, I am now even more convinced that Net of Amentok is going to get nerfed. Because if you can use this in multiplayer, if you can use this ability in multiplayer and there's no counters to it, can we imagine what projectile heavy armies are going to do? Even, in fact, never mind that. You have two high priced units charging each other. You literally stop the charge of a whole front from the opposing army. They do not get their charge bonus and you countercharge them. Let's process this. Right, so I would need to Excel. I would need to put all of these spells into Excel, all of these schools into Excel, compare them one against each other, against this, and against values that I, for instance, just cannot see right now because they're not in this tooltip, eh? So, a little bit disappointed. I think they could have done a much better job with this GUI, like. Really, do you want me to try out every spell to know how it works? Let's think about that for a second. Let's not obfuscate information for the sake of anything. Okay. I am running out of air. I want a coffee. Net is OP. Net for 20 seconds is even more OP in 30 meters. This, we'll see what unbreakable means. Eh? Anyway, that is the end. That is, I think we're gonna have to call it. We're gonna have to call it here, friends. This is turned into a long spell browser video, eh? Let's take a break. Let me take a breath. Let me get a coffee, and I'll see you in the next video.